Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to begin with a truth that is not only powerful, but liberating. You were not born to just exist. You were born to live with purpose, power, and potential. The life you are living right now is not your final chapter. In fact, the pen is still in your hand. You have the power to change your life, not someday, but starting today. You were not created simply to exist. You were not placed on this earth to get a job, pay bills, and wait for retirement. Life is not a random journey through time and space. It is a mission, and you are a person on assignment. The first and most important key to changing your life is this: you must rediscover your purpose. Purpose is the original reason for your existence. It is the meaning behind your breath. It is not a wish, a fantasy, or an ambition. It is the very thing that motivated your Creator to send you here. You were born with it. You were born as an answer to a problem, a solution wrapped in skin, a carrier of vision that only you can fulfill. Your life is not a coincidence. It is intentional, deliberate, strategic. And yet, many people walk through life empty, not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack understanding. They are tired, not from working hard, but from working without meaning. They are successful by the world's standards, but frustrated in their souls. Why? Because when purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. When you don't know the purpose of a thing, you will misuse it, you will abuse it, or you will neglect it altogether. That's what's happening to lives all around us, abused, misused, wasted. Not because people are evil, but because they never truly discovered why they were here in the first place. Purpose is more than a career. It is more than a role. It is deeper than what you do. It is connected to who you are. Purpose existed before your job, before your title, even before your family structure. If your job ends, your purpose doesn't end. If people walk away from your life, your purpose remains untouched, because your purpose is not something you invented. It is something you were born with. Your job is to discover it, not create it. But how do you rediscover your purpose? It starts with stillness. It starts with stepping away from the noise of opinion, the pressure of expectation, and the chaos of culture. You must begin to ask the deeper questions. Who am I? Why was I born in this time, to this generation, with these abilities, with these passions? What problem on earth was I uniquely designed to solve? The answers don't come from social media. They don't come from the applause of people. They come from listening to the inner whisper of your original design. There is something inside you that the world needs. There is an idea, a service, a message, a gift, a perspective that no one else can bring quite like you. And until you uncover that, you will always feel like something is missing. The reason you wake up tired, even after a full night's rest, the reason you feel heavy, even when nothing seems to be wrong, the reason you're constantly busy, but never fulfilled, is because your soul is searching for meaning. Your spirit is restless for purpose. Do not confuse movement with progress. You can be climbing the ladder of success only to find it leaning against the wrong wall. You can accumulate degrees, titles, and achievements, and still feel empty if none of it aligns with your divine assignment. The true measure of life is not how much you earn, but how much of your purpose you fulfill. Purpose gives direction. It tells you what to say yes to and what to walk away from. When you understand your purpose, you stop competing with others because you realize that no one else can be you. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. Purpose simplifies your decisions and multiplies your impact. You were not designed to copy others. You were designed to be a blueprint. There is something original about you, something sacred about your calling. That's why comparison is so dangerous. It distracts you from your own assignment. You cannot discover your purpose while trying to live someone else's life. When you imitate others, the world loses the gift that only you could bring. The power to change your life begins when you stop chasing popularity and start pursuing purpose. Popularity fades, trends change, but purpose remains. It is the compass that keeps you grounded when everything else shifts. It is the fire that fuels your passion and gives you a reason to endure hardship. Purpose doesn't exempt you from challenges. It gives you the strength to push through them. There is nothing more powerful than a person who knows why they are alive. They walk differently, they speak with conviction, they say no with clarity and yes with passion. They are not easily manipulated or discouraged because their life is guided by something bigger than the moment. When storms come, they don't fall apart. They anchor deeper into their calling. Every great person you admire, whether in history, business, leadership, or faith, was driven by purpose. They were not perfect, but they were clear. They knew what they were born to do, and they did not let fear, failure, or public opinion distract them. And the same is possible for you, but you must take the time. You must do the inner work. You must shut out the noise and get alone with yourself and your source. Ask, seek, listen, and when purpose begins to rise within you, do not run from it. Embrace it, even if it scares you, because the moment you rediscover your purpose, everything changes. Your perspective, your choices, your energy, your life. Nothing in your life will change until you take full, radical responsibility for it. Not partial responsibility, not convenient responsibility. Complete ownership of your decisions, your growth, your attitude, and your future. This is one of the hardest yet most liberating truths you will ever embrace. You are not waiting on life. Life is waiting on you. It's waiting on you to wake up to the power that's already inside you. The power to choose, to act, to transform. As long as you continue to point fingers at your parents, your government, your past, your environment, you surrender your power. Blame is a subtle form of bondage. Every time you say, I'm this way because of them, you give them the keys to your destiny. You place your future in the hands of circumstances you cannot control. And here's the truth. It's not your fault how your life began, but it is your responsibility how it continues. We live in a world that has made excuses fashionable. We glorify victimhood, normalize self, pity, and label accountability as harsh. But the truth is, nothing will improve in your life until you accept that the quality of your life is a direct reflection of the decisions you've made and the ones you continue to make daily. That is not a message of guilt. It is a message of freedom, because if your decisions created your current reality, then new decisions can create a new one. That means you are not stuck, you are not helpless, you are not trapped. You are powerful, and the moment you realize that is the moment your life begins to shift. Taking responsibility means you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I learn from this, and how do I grow through it? It's a shift in mindset from helplessness to empowerment, from complaint to correction, from waiting to creating. You move from being a passive observer of your life to an active participant in shaping it. Some people pray for a breakthrough but live like victims. They declare they want change, but their habits don't align with that declaration. They want success without sacrifice, growth without discomfort, transformation without discipline. It does not work that way. If you want your life to change, you must be willing to own your part in where you are, and more importantly, own your part in where you're going. No one is going to rescue you. No one is coming to fix it for you, but the moment you decide to take control of your thoughts, your actions, and your direction, you become unstoppable. There is a difference between being at fault and being responsible. You may not have been at fault for the pain in your childhood, the betrayal you experienced, or the loss that broke your heart, but you are responsible for how you respond, how you heal, how you rise, and how you lead the rest of your life. That's not cruelty, it's maturity. Life doesn't wait for us to feel ready. It requires us to rise whether we feel like it or not. Taking responsibility means you stop reacting to life and begin to design it. It means waking up each day with intentionality, choosing your attitude before the world has a chance to shape it for you. It means managing your emotions, your energy, and your expectations. It means investing in your growth, not just consuming content. It means doing the hard things now so you don't have to live with regret later. Some people are stuck not because of lack of opportunity, but because they keep waiting for perfect conditions. They wait for motivation, for a sign, for someone to believe in them. But the truth is, the people who change their lives are those who act despite fear, despite uncertainty, despite not feeling ready. They stop waiting for permission and give themselves permission. They don't ask the world, is it okay if I try? They decide, I will rise whether I'm applauded or not. There is no power in blame. There is only stagnation, bitterness, and regret. But the moment you say, this is my life, and I am responsible for what I do with it, something awakens in you. You stop looking for heroes and start becoming one. You stop wishing and start building. You stop replaying what was and start creating what can be. There's a cost to change, that's true, but there's a greater cost to remaining the same. Taking responsibility doesn't mean everything will suddenly become easy, but it means you will become stronger. You will face the same storms, but you will face them with a new mindset. You will stop saying, I can't, and start saying, I haven't yet, but I will. You become a person who is no longer defined by what happened to them, but by what they choose to become in response to it. There's a version of you that the world hasn't met yet. A stronger, wiser, more focused version. But that version won't appear through wishing, waiting, or complaining. That version will emerge the day you say, I take full ownership of my life. From that moment forward, your future is no longer a mystery. It becomes a mission, and that mission begins today. Transformation begins in the invisible arena of your thoughts. Before a palace rises, a blueprint is drawn. Before a destiny unfolds, a mindset is formed. Every triumph you celebrate and every defeat you endure was first constructed in the silent workshop of the mind. That is why genuine change never starts with a new address, a new job, or a new relationship. Move to another city carrying the same mental map, and you will recreate the same limitations. Alter the map and the entire landscape of your life rearranges itself to match the upgrade. A mindset is not a stray opinion. It is an atmosphere, an internal climate that colors every perception. It filters whether an unanswered email means rejection or simply busy schedules, whether a delay signals denial or preparation. Two people can confront the same mountain. One sees a stone wall, the other sees a workout. The difference is not the rock but the lens. When you choose the lens of possibility, the terrain may remain rugged, yet your capacity to conquer it multiplies. Most lenses are inherited, passed down like family heirlooms. Phrases such as people like us never do that, or stay realistic, slip past conscious defense and lodge in the subconscious, quietly vetoing bold decisions decades after the original voices fall silent. These smuggled scripts distance you from the very territories you were born to claim. Changing them begins with interrogation. Who told me this boundary exists? Are they qualified to fence my future? Questioning long-standing beliefs is not rebellion. It is responsible stewardship of your potential. Rewiring the mind is not an emotional event. It is a daily discipline. Thoughts carve grooves in the brain through repetition. Years spent replaying anxious or condemning stories create neural highways to the familiar, no matter how painful. The good news is neuroplasticity. Each intentional, uplifting thought lays fresh track. Affirm possibility at dawn, rehearse gratitude at noon, review progress at dusk, repeat. Consistency, not sporadic intensity, rewrites mental pathways. In time, the new track feels natural, and the old path of panic grows over from disuse. Guard the gates of your mind with vigilance greater than you guard your valuables. Switch channels when conversation drips cynicism, when lyrics glorify despair, when headlines baptize you in panic. Mental diet fuels emotional metabolism. Read words that stretch you, listen to voices that enlarge you, tour ideas bigger than your current address. What enters repeatedly will exit through decisions, habits, and ultimately your legacy. Language is the steering wheel of thought, and thought drives life. Speak what you intend to build, not what you dread will crumble. Saying, I always mess up, programs creativity to search for proof of failure. Saying, I'm mastering this, activates that same engine to collect evidence of progress. Words are not decorations, they are architectural plans issued to builders inside your brain. Refine vocabulary and you refine the skyscraper rising in your future skyline. Positivity alone is cotton candy. Purposeful thinking provides protein. It marries faith to strategy and asks, what lesson hides in this setback? Which skill must I sharpen so this obstacle becomes a stepping stone? Biologists say species survive by adapting. Purposeful thinkers thrive by learning. They refuse to internalize defeat as identity. Instead, they mine mistakes for instruction, pivot, and re-engage more intelligently than before. Upgrade mindset by upgrading proximity. Ideas are contagious, and proximity is the incubator. Sit with people who treat problems like puzzles and dreams like blueprints. If such voices are scarce in your postcode, import them through biographies, podcasts, and virtual mentorships. Their vocabulary will stretch you, their questions will refine you, their confidence will infect you until audacity feels normal and caution uncomfortable. Mental renewal also thrives in strategic solitude. Calendar thinking appointments with yourself as faithfully as meetings with others. In quiet ask, what would courage do next? If resources were unlimited, what solution would I design? If success were guaranteed, what would I attempt before year end? Write uncensored answers. Often the first response is cautious, the fifth revolutionary. Stillness peels away inherited caution until authentic vision surfaces. Expectation is a magnet. When the mind anticipates favor, it spots opportunities hiding in plain sight. Anticipate hostility and neutral events look menacing. Train expectation with thanksgiving for every victory, however small. Gratitude proves to your mind that good things happen to you and primes it to detect the next goodness. This is not denial of hardship. It is refusal to make hardship the only narrative. Renew the mind until opportunity feels like confirmation rather than surprise, until challenge triggers creativity instead of panic. Be prepared for relational turbulence. Those accustomed to your former limitations may feel threatened by your expanding vision. They will question your new vocabulary, tease your new routines, remind you of old failures. Smile and keep walking. Transformation is personal work. It rarely wins immediate applause. Silent consistency will quiet critics faster than loud explanations. Let results speak sentences your tongue never has to form. Remember, you do not attract what you wish. You attract what you are prepared to steward. Renew your mind until abundance feels normal, until excellence feels native, until possibilities feel inevitable. When your inner world upgrades, outer doors swing open, not by magic but by alignment. Change your mind and your life reports for duty. The upgraded mindset becomes a compass, steering every choice toward the horizon your heart already glimpsed in moments of daring. The seed of potential in you is flawless, yet every seed lives or dies by the soil that surrounds it. You can possess genius, carry vision, burn with conviction, but if you keep planting yourself in toxic ground, you will stunt, distort, or even forfeit the harvest your life was designed to produce. Soil is another name for environment. People, places, conversations, digital feeds, atmospheres, and habits that constantly whisper permission or pour poison on your destiny. Changing your life is therefore inseparable from curating where you live mentally, emotionally, and physically. Many sabotage their progress not because they lack discipline, but because their environment keeps diluting it. They wake up determined, but the first voice they encounter is cynical. The first headline they read screams anxiety. The first scroll bathes them in comparison. By noon their resolve has evaporated and they blame willpower when the real culprit is atmosphere. A fish cannot thrive in polluted water. A seed cannot germinate in concrete. A human spirit cannot soar in chronic negativity. Protecting your environment is not elitism, it is stewardship. Atmosphere is contagious. Optimism, creativity, faith, and excellence multiply where they are celebrated. Likewise, mediocrity, gossip, and fear metastasize wherever they are tolerated. Therefore, you must become an uncompromising gatekeeper, audit the voices that dominate your hours, Not every friend deserves front row seating in your future. Some relationships resemble anchors. They may be sincere, yet their weight drags you back to familiar but unfruitful depths. Love them, bless them, but relocate them to the balcony of your life if their presence costs you momentum. There is a subtle myth that loyalty means lifelong proximity. True loyalty sometimes means you step away so you can grow, then reach back as an example rather than a fellow inmate. Do not confuse distance with dishonor. Pruning is an agricultural necessity, not an act of hostility. Even vines that produce fruit must be trimmed to produce more. Prune conversations that recycle old failures. Prune routines that sedate rather than stimulate your vision. Prune media diets that normalize chaos and numb your imagination. The digital landscape can be either a greenhouse or a garbage dump. Algorithms amplify whatever you linger on. Hover over outrage and the machine will feed you rage. Linger on learning and it will flood you with resources. Your clicks vote on the everyday cultural climate that surrounds your mind. Curate your feeds with curatorial precision. Subscribe to channels that educate, unfollow threads that bleed bitterness, schedule screen. Free hours where silence can breathe. Your device is a doorway, monitor what walks through it. Physical spaces preach silent sermons. Walk into a cluttered room and your mind inherits clutter. Enter an orderly, light-filled space and clarity rises unannounced. Create pockets of excellence, an organized desk, a vision board, a journal nook, a training corner, so that every time you cross that threshold, your brain receives a visual cue. Here we think clearly, here we build boldly, here we honor the future. Excellence is habit, forming. The more you encounter it, the less comfortable you feel in sloppiness. Community is the greenhouse where greatness ripens fastest. 1 hour with strategic thinkers can produce months of isolated effort. Seek alliances with those who provoke your potential. If they dream bigger, plan sharper, and celebrate your progress without envy, stay close. Pay for mentorship if necessary. Tuition to a wise voice is cheaper than ignorance. And remember, community is reciprocal. Do not only consume value, contribute energy, ideas, and encouragement. The healthiest environments are ecosystems where every participant both gives and receives. Your internal environment, self-talk, imagination, emotional tone, is the control room. You can fly first, class externally yet crash internally if inner dialogue tears you down. Speak to yourself as a coach, not a critic. When fear knocks, answer with evidence of past victories. When doubt whispers, replay every promise and prophecy that ever ignited you. Equip your imagination with images of the preferred future until they become more convincing than the scars of yesterday. Seasons of isolation sometimes precede seasons of elevation. An eagle learns to fly alone before it joins the sky's assembly. There will be chapters where protecting your environment means temporary seclusion, logging off, stepping back, diving deep into study, prayer, or strategic planning. Use those seasons not to sulk but to sharpen. What you forge in solitude becomes the sword you wield in public. Never mistake temporary hiddenness for permanent obscurity. It is the womb of reinvention. Guarding your environment also involves thresholds of time. Late night hours often host low-quality decisions. Schedule your sleep like an executive appointment. Fatigue lowers discernment, and tired people reach for familiar comfort. Frequently the very patterns you vowed to break. A refreshed body is fertile soil for superior thinking. Hydrate, move, rest, repeat. Your physiology is part of your atmosphere. Generosity transforms environment. A space saturated with gratitude and giving becomes magnetic. Compliment freely, tip generously, share resources openly, celebrate loudly. Scarcity mindset shrivels atmospheres. Abundance opens windows. When people feel honored around you, they mirror honor back, and an upward spiral begins. You will discover doors swinging wide that talent alone could not budge because honor cultivated allies in rooms you haven't entered yet. Watch the soundtracks of your environment. Music manipulates mood faster than conversation. Create playlists for focus, for reflection, for celebration. Sound can cloak distractions, soothe anxiety, or ignite boldness. Use it deliberately rather than passively succumbing to whatever sonic clutter fills public air. Atmosphere without assignment can still breed complacency. Surroundings should challenge you forward, not merely comfort you. Hang charts of your quarterly goals where your eyes cannot avoid them. Pin quotes that disturb laziness. Keep tools of your craft within arm's reach so excuses have no room to gestate. Comfort zones are mislabeled, they are really confinement zones. Arrange your environment to make progress the path of least resistance. Finally, remember that you carry environment within you. Wherever you go, you emit a frequency, joy or tension, expectation or resignation. Choose to be a thermostat, not a thermometer. Set the climate instead of reflecting it. Smile first, greet first, believe first. When storms swirl externally, anchor internally, and you will find others gathering beneath the calm you radiate. Protecting your environment is therefore not a one-time renovation, but a lifestyle of continual calibration, ensuring that every context you inhabit aligns with the highest call on your life. You cannot live above the level of your habits. You may dream lofty dreams, write detailed goals, speak powerful affirmations, and declare change with fiery conviction. But until your daily actions reflect your vision, all transformation remains theoretical. The future is not built in grand declarations. It is shaped quietly in routines, in the decisions you repeat when no one is watching, in the small moments when discipline wins over impulse. Destiny does not respond to desire, it responds to discipline. Your life is a result of what you consistently do, not what you occasionally feel or temporarily attempt. That's the great illusion, believing that a single breakthrough will compensate for a lifestyle of inconsistency. But the real power is not in bursts of motivation, it is in systems. It is not the intense workout once a month, but the steady movement each day. Not the sudden spiritual high, but the daily time of reflection, reading, or prayer. Success is not an event, it is a rhythm, and if your rhythm is rooted in discipline, momentum will follow. Most people fail not because they lack talent, but because their habits sabotage their potential. You can't pray for clarity and then spend every free moment numbing yourself with distractions. You can't wish for abundance while practicing financial recklessness. You can't declare you want to grow and avoid every book, mentor, or challenge that would expand you. Your habits are either your greatest ally or your silent assassin. And what's deceptive is that the effects of your habits are often delayed. Just like poor nutrition doesn't destroy you overnight, poor discipline erodes your future slowly, until one day you look up and realize the cost. That's why lasting change is rarely dramatic at the beginning. It often feels boring. A new habit feels inconvenient. Waking up early when your bed is warm, saving money when your desires whisper just this once. Sitting down to write when your mind is foggy. These don't feel like heroic acts. But repeated over time, they form the infrastructure of greatness. What feels sacrificial today becomes second nature tomorrow. Discipline is painful in the moment, but it is the seed of peace, power, and purpose. Discipline is also how you regain trust with yourself. Many people walk through life carrying quiet disappointment, not because others failed them, but because they have broken too many promises to themselves. Each time you say, "I'll start tomorrow," and don't, you weaken your internal authority. But every time you follow through, even in a small way, you rebuild that trust. You begin to believe yourself again. That self-belief becomes fuel. You start saying, "If I can do that, then I can do this." Confidence grows not from compliments, but from consistency. One of the biggest myths about discipline is that it's about punishment or restriction. In reality, discipline is the highest form of self-love. It says, "I love my future enough to protect it from today's distractions." It honors your long-term potential more than your short-term craving. It is the invisible architect behind every legacy you admire. The athlete, the artist, the entrepreneur, the leader. They did not arrive where they are by chance. They cultivated habits that matched their calling. But here's the grace in it all. You don't need to overhaul your entire life in a day. Small hinges swing big doors. If you can change one habit, just one, you start a chain reaction. One new routine affects your time, your energy, your mindset, your emotions. Wake up 30 minutes earlier and you suddenly have time to reflect. Replace 1 hour of entertainment with reading and you expand your insight. Cut back one unhealthy meal and your body begins to respond. Change one thing and everything else begins to feel possible. Environment fuels habit and habit fuels identity. You don't just do disciplined things, you become a disciplined person. Your habits eventually become your default settings. The key is to remove friction. Don't just will yourself to change, prepare for it. If you want to work out in the morning, lay out your clothes the night before. If you want to read more, keep your book visible and your phone out of reach. Make success the easy choice by designing your life around it. There will always be resistance. Every new habit invites opposition, not only from within but often from around you. People who feel threatened by your progress may mock or minimize your efforts. Stay the course, results will silence resistance, and don't confuse a slow start with failure. Progress often looks like repetition. The seed does not sprout because of dramatic effort, but because it stayed buried and consistent long enough to break through. Track your habits, not just your goals. Goals are important, but they are the destination. Habits are the vehicle. You don't control outcomes, but you do control actions. Let your joy come from the process, not just the result. Applaud yourself not only when you succeed, but when you show up. Discipline is victory in motion. The fact that you're doing what you used to avoid is already proof of growth. And when you slip, and you will, don't use failure as a reason to quit. Use it as data, learn, adjust, and return stronger. A missed day is not a defeated life. Forgive yourself quickly, but don't lower your standard. Excellence is not perfection, it is commitment. Keep showing up. Keep building the habits that carry your calling. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you cast a vote for the person you are becoming. Eventually, what once felt hard will feel natural. What once felt impossible will feel automatic. You'll wake up one day and realize that your habits have taken you where inspiration alone never could. And in that moment, you won't just be proud of the results. You'll be proud of the person you had to become to sustain them. That is the reward of discipline, not just achievement, but transformation. You can't change your life until you change your decisions. Every outcome in your life is the harvest of a decision you once made. Some small and unnoticed, others obvious and defining. Decisions shape the direction of your life more than intentions, desires, or even talent. Intentions may feel good in the moment, but only decisions carry power. Until you learn to take ownership of your choices, you will always feel like a bystander in your own life, watching the story unfold as if someone else is holding the pen. We are all one decision away from a new direction. It doesn't have to be a massive, earth-shaking decision. Often, the pivot point is quiet. It's deciding to get up when you feel defeated, choosing to forgive when bitterness would feel justified, committing to the process when quitting would be easier. That's where your life begins to shift. Transformation isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it begins with the courage to decide differently in the same old situation. Most people don't change their lives because they never change the system by which they make decisions. They wait for emotion to push them into action, but emotion is inconsistent. If you only act when you feel inspired, you'll build a life as unstable as your mood. Real maturity is when your decisions are anchored to principles, not feelings. Principles are fixed. They hold steady when pressure rises. They become the compass that guides you through storms, distractions, and even internal doubts. Some decisions you make only once, but they must be enforced daily. Choosing to live with integrity, for instance, is one decision, but you reinforce it every time you refuse to lie, even when it costs you. Deciding to prioritize growth is one commitment, but you strengthen it each day you read, study, and reflect instead of wasting time. It's not enough to decide once. You have to protect that decision through action. A decision not followed by discipline is a wish dressed in fancy words. Avoiding decisions is itself a decision. Indecision is subtle self-sabotage. People delay because they fear getting it wrong, but staying stuck is often worse than choosing imperfectly. The road to clarity is rarely found before the step. It often comes in the middle of motion. Decide, learn, adjust, repeat. You gain wisdom not just by thinking, but by deciding and living through the consequences. The longer you wait to choose, the more momentum you give to your past by default. Your decisions must be aligned with your identity, not your insecurity. If you decide from fear, you shrink. If you decide from lack, you settle. But when you choose based on who you are becoming, you stretch. You rise. Every decision becomes a vote for your future self. So ask not just what do I feel like doing, but what would the person I'm becoming decide in this moment? That question will rewire your patterns because it reconnects you with your potential instead of your limitations. One of the most powerful things you can do is decide your boundaries. Many people fall because they wait until the moment of temptation to figure out what to do. But you don't rise under pressure by chance. You rise by preparation. Decide beforehand what you will and won't tolerate. Decide who has access to your time and attention. Decide what your priorities are before the crowd or chaos arrives. Boundaries don't cage you, they guard the greatness within you. Surrounding yourself with wise counsel sharpens your decision making. Lone decisions often lack the benefit of perspective. Sometimes the difference between breakthrough and breakdown is a single conversation with someone who's walked the road before you. Humility invites insight. Ask questions, weigh input, and be open to correction. But once you receive clarity, don't stall, decide. The people who move forward are not the ones with perfect information, but the ones willing to act on conviction. Your decisions also require endurance. A good decision doesn't always lead to instant reward. In fact, many right decisions will test your patience. Saying no to distraction today may not feel gratifying tomorrow, but years later, you'll be living in the results. The problem is not the decision, it's our demand for immediate fruit. Trust the seed, trust the process. If the decision was right, time will eventually prove it. Stay planted long enough for your roots to grow. Fear tries to hijack decisions by magnifying what you might lose while minimizing what you could gain. It whispers, what if it doesn't work? But wisdom asks, what if it does? Every risk you've been hesitating to take, starting the business, writing the book, walking away from what's familiar, contains not just uncertainty, but opportunity. There is no courage without risk. Growth always requires a decision that makes your knees shake and your faith rise. Move forward anyway, honor your past, but don't let it dictate your decisions. You may have failed before, but you are not your failure. You may have been overlooked, misunderstood, under-resourced, but your current decision holds more power than your previous condition. History is a teacher, not a jailer. The door to the future is not locked by your past unless you keep handing it the key. Every time you make a decision based on the new, you chip away at the old identity that tried to trap you. Ultimately, your life is a reflection of accumulated decisions, and every decision creates a ripple. Your health, your relationships, your finances, your mindset, they are all echoes of choices. If you want to change your life, stop looking for dramatic miracles and start making daily decisions that match your mission. Decide to think higher, decide to act braver, decide to show up fully, decide to let go. Decide to begin again and again if necessary, until your decisions create the world your dreams once only imagined. You were not created to drift. You were created to lead, not just in a corporate office, on a stage, or behind a title, but in your life. Leadership is not a position, it is a posture. It's the ability to take responsibility for your direction, to influence outcomes, and to shape reality rather than being shaped by it. You cannot transform your life without stepping into the authority of personal leadership. Until you claim ownership of your path, you will live under the influence of other people's priorities, fears, or opinions. The most dangerous thing you can do is outsource your decisions to someone else's approval. Many people live on autopilot, seeking validation more than truth. choosing paths that feel safe rather than paths that resonate with purpose. But leadership demands that you ask difficult questions. Who am I becoming? Where am I headed? What values shape my decisions? What story do I want to live? These are not questions the world can answer for you. You must answer them yourself, and your life must become a reflection of those answers. Leading your life means learning to discern the difference between noise and guidance. Every day you are surrounded by voices, the media, your peers, social trends, even your own fears. But not every voice deserves influence. The voice of vision is often quiet, patient, and anchored. It speaks through peace, not panic. It whispers through clarity, not confusion. Leadership means you choose to respond to vision, not react to noise. It means turning down the volume of distractions so the truth can rise. Great leadership begins with internal order. You cannot lead others, or even lead your life, if your inner world is chaotic. What do you believe? What do you stand for? What do you say no to, even when it's unpopular? Leadership is not about charisma, it's about conviction. It's about aligning your life with principles that outlast seasons. When you know what anchors you, you stop chasing every trend and start walking in direction. That's where peace begins, in clarity, not comfort. The lie many people believe is that they're not ready to lead until they have it all together. But you don't become a leader because you have all the answers. You become one because you are willing to take responsibility. Responsibility is the birthplace of power. When you stop blaming your upbringing, your culture, your circumstances, your timeline. When you say, I may not have chosen all of this, but I choose how I respond. You take the first step into true authority. That doesn't mean you won't have fears or doubts. In fact, leadership often means walking forward in spite of them. It means holding the weight of decisions when there's no guarantee of outcome. It means choosing progress over perfection, purpose over comfort, growth over ease. Many never lead because they wait for full certainty, but clarity increases with movement. Sometimes the boldest thing you can do is take the next right step, even when the entire path is not visible. You learn by leading, you grow by deciding. You must also learn to lead through resistance. Every time you level up, resistance will try to keep you in the familiar. It might come as procrastination, criticism, distraction, or fear. But leadership means you expect it and prepare for it. You build the habit of discipline, you clarify your why, and you keep moving forward when others stop. Resistance is not a sign you're off track. Often, it's proof you're disrupting the old patterns that kept you stuck. Leading yourself means refusing to be paralyzed by resistance. The people around you feel the weight of your leadership, whether you realize it or not. When you show up with integrity, it gives others permission to do the same. When you speak truth without apology, it inspires honesty in others. When you rise after failure, others see that their past doesn't have to define their future. Your leadership creates a ripple. Even if you're not leading thousands, you're leading someone. Your children, your team, your friends, your younger self who's still waiting for proof that change is possible. Leadership also requires vision. You cannot lead what you cannot see. You must take time to imagine a different future, not just wish for it, but visualize it with detail. What does your best life look like? How do you act, think, speak, love, create, and serve in that life? If you can see it, you can steer toward it. Vision gives you a standard by which to evaluate decisions. Without vision, you'll say yes to everything. But with it, you learn the power of a focused no. As you grow, your leadership must mature. Early leadership may be about proving yourself. Mature leadership becomes about service. You stop leading just for what you can gain and start leading for what you can give. You become a bridge for others, not just a beacon. You lift people higher. You create spaces where others can grow, shine, and find their own voice. Leadership becomes less about spotlight and more about legacy. And that legacy starts not in a crowd, but in a choice. Choose to lead your life. Choose to stop waiting for perfect timing, for someone to rescue you, for every detail to align. You may not control every circumstance, but you control your response. That response, repeated daily, becomes your direction. That direction, sustained consistently, becomes your destiny. In the end, leadership is not about being the loudest. It's about being the clearest. It's not about dominating others. It's about mastering yourself. Lead with humility. Lead with courage. Lead with faith in a future that's worth building. Because when you truly lead your life, you stop waiting for change, and you become the one who causes it. The greatest power you possess is the power to believe, not just in ideas or in systems, not even in people alone, but in the purpose planted within you by design. You cannot rise above what you don't believe about yourself. You may act confident for a season, but if your internal belief is rooted in doubt, limitation, or fear, that belief will eventually show. Belief is not a motivational slogan. It is the unseen engine behind every decision, every risk, every comeback, and every achievement. If you want to change your life, you must first change what you believe is possible for you. Belief is more powerful than circumstance. You can have everything stacked against you, lack of resources, no support, no blueprint, and still rise if belief is strong. And the opposite is just as true. You can be surrounded by opportunity and still live beneath your potential if your belief is weak. Many people live small not because they lack vision, but because they believe they don't deserve more. They sabotage their own progress, not because of external enemies, but because of internal limits. Those limits are often invisible, formed by early words, past failures, cultural expectations, or personal trauma. But no matter how they were built, they can be broken, and that begins with belief. When you believe in something deeply, your actions begin to align, you speak with different authority, you pursue goals with unusual resilience. You make decisions not out of fear, but out of focus. That's the power of belief. It organizes your behavior, even subconsciously. If you believe you're capable, you will try harder. If you believe it's possible, you will stay longer. If you believe it's worth it, you will sacrifice more. So the key question is not just what do I want, but what do I believe is possible for me to experience, build, become, and give. The tragedy is that many people believe more in their limitations than their capacity. They rehearse their history more than they imagine their future. They believe the voices that told them you're not enough, you'll never succeed, this is just how it is, and those voices become internal law. But belief is a choice before it becomes a conviction. You have to challenge those old agreements. You have to say, just because it's been true doesn't mean it has to remain true. You have to divorce your identity from your history and marry it to your destiny. Belief grows in an environment of truth. That's why you must feed your mind with what reinforces your highest potential. Read books that stretch you. Listen to voices that remind you of who you are. Surround yourself with people who speak life. Silence the noise that keeps you small. Belief does not flourish in a vacuum. It needs to be nourished. You can't believe for a new future if you only consume the same conversations and confirmations of mediocrity. Protect your mental environment like your future depends on it. Because it does. Belief must also be tested. It's one thing to say you believe. It's another to act on that belief when the pressure is on. Your belief will be challenged by delay, by resistance, by failure, by fatigue. But these are not signs that you were wrong. They are opportunities to prove that your belief runs deeper than emotion. Belief that endures becomes faith. And faith is not based on evidence alone. It's anchored in a vision that hasn't manifested yet. It says, I don't see it yet, but I believe it's worth the journey. When your belief matures into faith, your courage multiplies. Your endurance lengthens. You stop needing signs every day to keep going because your spirit has already decided. It's done. Every breakthrough begins with belief. The great movements of history, the innovations that changed the world, the stories that inspire generations, they all started with someone believing what others called impossible. That belief sparked vision. That vision gave birth to action, and that action changed the world. If others could believe when no one else did, what excuse do you have with everything now at your fingertips? You were born with purpose. You were born with power, But if you do not believe it, you will bury it under fear, comparison, and delay. Belief also brings alignment. When you believe in yourself, you stop trying to become someone else. You stop comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. You realize that your path has value, your process has purpose, and your voice has power. You start honoring your uniqueness instead of apologizing for it. Belief gives you permission to show up fully without shrinking or performing. It connects you with your true identity, and that identity carries authority. And yet, belief isn't a one-time decision, it's a daily choice. Every morning you must decide, will I believe the truth or the lie? Will I believe the vision or the circumstance? Will I believe my value or the voices of doubt? That decision sets the tone for your actions, your mood, your words, and your results. You don't need more motivation. You need deeper belief. Motivation fades when challenges rise, but belief keeps you moving even in the dark. Sometimes belief is quiet. It's the whisper that says, try again. It's the strength to stand when it would be easier to give in. It's the peace that refuses to panic. Other times belief roars. It launches businesses, starts revolutions, creates art, heals families, transforms legacies. Belief gives you the fuel to turn setbacks into strategy and obstacles into opportunity. You were not created to live stuck in fear or trapped in cycles. The moment you begin to truly believe in the power within you, you start to live on purpose. You stop reacting to life and begin creating it. You shift from victim to visionary, from hesitation to movement, from potential to impact. And it all begins with belief, deep, unshakable belief in who you are and what you were born to bring into the world. Because when you believe, everything changes, your mind expands, your heart opens, your habits shift, and the life you once thought was too big for you becomes the life that fits you perfectly. Not because it magically arrived, but because your belief made you bold enough to build it. Let me leave you with this. Your life will not change because you wish it, hope it, or wait for someone else to make it happen. Your life will change because you decide it must. You have the power right now, not someday, to rewrite your story, to disrupt every limitation, to silence every lie that told you you can't, and to rise into the person you were always meant to become. Don't let another day pass while your potential lies dormant. Don't settle for surviving when you were designed to lead, to create, to impact, to live fully. You carry within you the seed of greatness, but a seed only grows when planted, watered, and protected. Plant your belief, water it with action, guard it with truth, and refuse, absolutely refuse, to let fear have the final word. You are not waiting on life. Life is waiting on you. Now rise, decide, lead. Believe and change everything.